Baby shark doot 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 doot. Baby shark doot 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 doot. Baby shark doot 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 doot. Baby shark. Shark attack doot 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 doot. Shark attack doot 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 doot. Shark attack doot 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 doot. Shark attack. Lady bobbin doot doot.
Santa Jaws is coming to Schlock. What is up, everybody? It is Christmas in July. We are continuing our Shark Month spectacular with Santa Jaws. This is a 2018, I think, Sci-Fi Channel shark movie. It costs, what I saw was $700,000 to make, but I also saw another figure that said it cost $3 million to make. I don't believe that one bit. That's a lie straight from the pit of the internet. There's no way this movie costs more than that, more than $700,000. I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. Below me is our very special guest, Lance, the obscure movie guy. What is up, Lance? Thank you for joining us once again. How are you doing? I hear there's a storm there. We're in your neck of the woods.
Oh yeah, it's thundering and lightning pretty good. So if I go dark, it's because I lost power and possibly got eaten up in the Sharknado.
The Sharknado came for you. Well, so I always like to plug your channel because you do Lance the Obscure Movie Guy podcast and YouTube channel, and you've recently released a new podcast. I think it should have been called "What the F is Going On with the DCU." Folks, he's pretty tame here. He's a pretty subdued, mellow, chill guy here, but if you want, if you're raging at the DC extended universe and you need a special outlet, you need to commiserate with somebody, go listen to Lance's latest podcast. Where all can everybody get it?
Right now it's only through Spotify, and obviously I put it up on my Facebook page, and but yeah, just Spotify right now, unfortunately. I don't have enough followers or listeners for anything else that I'm aware of.
Hey, man, that's all right. Act like you have 1 million followers and build it and they will come. They're coming right now to us. I can feel it. So we also have some podcast stuff going on. Like I said, it's Christmas in July. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio. We're in a few other places. Deezer, is that a thing? Deezer nuts? But yes, you can get us as a podcast, and we are having this very special. Chris is unhappy.
No, sir, I'm chuckling.
We are having a special Christmas in July Christmas episode dump. So tell us all about it.
Two to three extra of our Christmas themed episodes from the past will be dropping on Wednesday, along with the audio for Santa Jaws. So look out for that wherever you listen to podcasts. And do
you know which episodes they are?
We've got Jingle All the Way 2.
Ooh, bam.
Santa with Muscles.
Bam.
The Killing Tree.
Bam.
And maybe another, maybe not. That might we'll be see. It. So
there's a special surprise. So if you're a podcasty person and you listen to them on the podcast platforms, make sure you, I guess, keep listening, because this is you're probably already there if you're listening to this. If you are not on a podcast platform and you are watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, do all of that great stuff. Let's see what else here is on the agenda. That is right. We are doing Shark Month. If you haven't figured it out yet, what we've done previously, we've covered Jaws, which is up here. We covered Shark in Venice, which is, you can't even see how low, like I'm putting my hand. And we have Santa Jaws. It's, I don't know. How do you guys feel without really getting into it before we get into this? Just Lance, tell me tell me where you're feeling on this movie. Is it up here or is it down there? Or is it kind of, where is it at?
It's definitely better than Shark in Venice. I was actually kind of surprised with how well this movie actually was in comparison to a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a great movie by any means, but it's not terrible. It's not Shark in Venice.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree. Chris, where are you at? Better than Jaws?
Well, yeah, because it has Jaws already, plus Santa. So just with pure movie math, it's clearly better than Jaws, people.
This is just the Christmas cash grab sequel to Jaws.
Right? They just go take the regular film and add like some Christmas music and like some like really bad Christmas like CGI that gets added into the film. So this is probably better than Shark in Venice. But I have a question for you about what the most important thing in a movie is and where it lies. But we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Yeah. As far as this movie goes, I try to read up a little bit before we do them. I didn't see a whole lot on this movie. I did find a interview with the director, but I didn't watch it because I'm lazy and I didn't want it to ruin any of my opinions. So, there's really not a lot going on with this. I have a question. Do you guys know, or do you think, was this like a Kickstarter deal? Do you get that vibe?
I did the same thing you did. I tried doing some research on the film, and there's just not a lot of information out there in regards to things.
It feels very Saturday morning sci-fi original to me. It doesn't feel Kickstarter-y to me.
Yeah, it feels like a more adult Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark? Right?
To be honest with you, the honest to God, the production value is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, tell from
for $700,000. Yeah. I wonder who pocketed the rest of that $3 million.
Right. Well, I just asked about the Kickstarter because if you watch the credits all the way through, I always watch movies from the very beginning to the very end because you never know if there's going to be previews for the next one nowadays. But it looked like they gave a special thanks, and it was very long. And there were a lot of family members thanked, a lot. I assume family members because they're the same last name.
It could be a Kickstarter
producers.
Thing. Yeah.
And there were some weird credits, like they were thanking like some high school kids, like some kids from whatever high school. And I think they were thanking a college editing department. So it feels like
you got to stretch those budget dollars, yo.
Yeah, to pocket that $3 million. So I think that there probably is some good stories behind this movie. So
I'm sure there are.
I'll tell you what, since I didn't do my due diligence, I will link to that director interview that I found. So y'all can check that out. Of course, that link will be here on YouTube. So before we go any further, I got to get this out of the way at the front of the video. We'll talk about it again at the end. But the next movie, it is your guys' movie. You, the listeners, the viewers, you get to pick what the movie will be. And so far, we've gotten a ton of requests, and we narrowed it down to 3 that you will vote on. The 3 are Deep Blue Sea, The Shallows, and 47 Meters Down. So what will happen is as soon as this episode airs on YouTube, on tomorrow, which would be today or maybe in the past when you're watching this or listening to it. Hopefully you're like right on top of it. But as soon as it airs on YouTube tomorrow, July 18th, I will do a poll on Instagram at Compelled by Schlock. Head over there, hit the poll, hit the one that you want. And Lance, he will also be putting up a poll on his Facebook page. And that's just Lance, the OMG, or is it Lance? Is it spelled all the way out? Lance, the obscure movie guy.
Yeah, I think it's spelled out, but you can hit me up at Lance OMG on Facebook.
Okay. So very important. Make sure you go and vote for The Shallows, 47 Meters Down, or Deep Blue Sea. I think it's about really smart sharks. And LL Cool J gets eaten.
No,
I think. No, not in that one. Well, anyway, I don't know. It's been a long time. So, by the way, spoilers, big spoiler alert for Santa Jaws and probably any other movie that exists. The way we do this show is we like to talk about the good, the bad, and the schlock, what we like, what we didn't like, and then kind of schlock is our catch-all, big ideas, pontificating on the movie as a whole. But first, before we do that, we like to talk about if we've seen these people before, where they're coming, where they're going, in what we call the web of schlock. Chris, what do you have for us?
Kind of like your research of the film, not a lot. We'll just take the lead who played Cody, Reed Miller. He's got a lot of credits, and looks like he's doing even more and bigger stuff. He's got a couple Netflix shows. He was in 7 episodes of Boo Bitch. He was in 1 episode of You, and he kind of is representational of the rest of the cast that they're in a lot of TV shows and a lot of real small parts and in a lot of movies. So you've probably seen a lot of them before, but there was nothing that really stood out as like, oh my gosh, he was this guy in that. Mm-hmm. Right. So,
okay.
But I think a lot of these people have potential to show up in future like schlock masterpieces. So,
okay.
The writer, Jake Kiernan, this is his only credit. You really can't find out much about him. Now, the director, Misty Talley, mm-hmm. She's more known as an editor, but she's directed several films. Starts with, I'll just get to the big ones. Shark Island, Ozark Shark, which is great. What a great title. And then my favorite, Mississippi River Shark. And then she followed it up with Santa Shark. And then after Santa Shark, she hasn't directed anything, but she's really switched hats to a lot more editing. Looks like a lot of Hallmark and Netflix Christmas movies. Christmas Contract, Hometown Christmas, Christmas Wish, Christmas in Louisiana, My Southern Family Christmas, A New Orleans Noel. So I really think that that Santa Jaws really changed her. She was really on this shark path. And then after Santa Jaws, she really switched over to the wholesome Christmas path. So
I do shark movies to pay the bills, but Christmas movies are my real passion. Yeah.
So was this just a stepping stone to get to the Christmas movies?
It's a clear path, Lance. You're right. I mean, if you really want to work in Christmas movies today, the key is to direct 4 amazingly titled shark films.
If you want to get to the Hallmark Channel, you got to go to sci-fi first.
Yeah, and it usually involves sharks. We are giving advice to whoever wants to move up in the Hallmark ladder. This is how you do it. Shark movies.
Very clear career path.
Yep.
So, yeah, is that it for the Web of Schlock?
That's really it. Oh, she was also an editor on Jeepers Creepers 3, which was that's a schlocky bit.
Yeah.
In 2017. So right before Santa Shark, which she directed and then co-edited, which is cool. I always like to see when directors wear more than one hat. But so I kind of want to check out Jeepers Creepers 3 just to see how well it's edited. I'm sure it's awesome.
Those are something we might have to come across sometime on this show. They're not, I don't know. I know there's a lot of people who like them. So let's get into the good and the bad. Chris, we didn't talk about this before, but I think you've yet to grab a good and the bad primarily for these movies. So I want to toss the good to you. What do you have for us?
Not a lot. The imagery is really cool and simple and iconic. The idea of a shark fin with a Santa hat on it is such a immediately emblematic image, right? It just it represents exactly what this movie is, and they milk it, and that really works. You know, some of the acting was quite good. Some not so much. For their budget, some of the special effects were really good. Some are really bad, but they were over the top. I really loved the idea of how they kept making the Santa jaws stronger and stronger, and it was almost like a half narwhal, half shark by the end.
Is that what was happening?
Yes.
Oh, you just mean when they're trying to destroy it.
So they take its teeth out, and then it eats a bunch of Christmas bulbs and uses the shards as teeth. Brilliant.
Honestly, I loved that. Just because I felt like, as far as like all the schlocky sharksploitation movies go, I really felt like this was a twofer, right? You got Santa Jaws, and then you got a sharkacorn.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. The narwhal meets shark with a peppermint horn that can impale people. Amazing, like
beautiful.
You know, I always complain about movies not taking it to the full end of it, and they did that here. So I really liked that too.
Yeah, they really had some great visuals all around. I think, like when the model Georgia, I think she stabs the eyeball out with.
I almost had a picture of that where you see the floating Rudolph nose eye impaled on the candy cane. I like the image of sharpening candy canes.
Well, who hasn't sucked on a candy cane and thought, I bet I could stab someone with this?
I mean, if you haven't thought that, you're probably not human.
Right.
Yeah.
Or not a psychopath. I don't know.
That's my good, man. What do you got? Either you or Lance, whoever wants to take it up.
On me, it's all basically the same. I think, it was pretty funny in parts. The Clark, I think, the comic book shop owner, while I think there were some problems with all of that, I think he had a pretty solid performance, comedic performance.
He was definitely one of my favorite parts.
The opening, where like it's the live action of their comic that they're creating, like that, man, that was cracking me up. The Santa Claus, he was like holding the Christmas tree like a gun or something. I don't know.
And then they had all the really bad Christmas puns when they were fighting each other.
Yeah, that actually,
it was like a schlocky movie's idea of what a schlocky movie would be.
Yeah, I mean that
meta schlock,
kind of what sold me on the movie. I was like, all right, I think I like this. Just first 5 minutes. Lance, what do you have?
I mean, as far as the good goes, I mean, I'm kind of on board with you guys. The acting was actually pretty good for most parts, with the exception of maybe just a couple of them. We touched on the production value. I think the production value was pretty good, all things considered, with the budget. Special effects, while they did look kind of cheesy, but I did like the progression of the shark getting stronger and more powerful. It's something that I equate to like something you would see like in a Toho Godzilla flick, where the bad monster always seems to be able to like get stronger and stronger towards the end.
They like go into some power lines or something.
Right. And the thing I think what I like best about this movie is that this movie has like the perfect balance of like campiness for not only a shark movie, but also like a cheesy Hallmark Christmas movie. It was like absolutely perfect down the middle, both ways.
I can see that.
All right,
I can see that.
Well, I wouldn't say it was perfect. And so let's move on into the bad, because I do have a longer list for bad than I have for good. The good, I believe, is
do you want me to start again with the bad? Or
hit us up with what's bad about this movie.
Oh, there's a lot. It's very made for TV-ish, which again, it was made for TV, so that you can't really fault that. Well, one of my biggest problems is that there were all these character moments and character scenes that felt like they were from other movies, that didn't feel earned, and that just felt like they were taking up time and space. And they have like when they're getting the explosives, the friend and the older brother, and then they have this weird like fight about being nerds and jocks out of nowhere that did not feel earned at all. It's not set up at all.
And it didn't go anywhere.
Would they really be talking about this right here when they're trying to get explosives to kill the shark? So there were lots of moments like that, especially between the mom and dad, that just felt really awkward. Some of that was acting, but I think it was just the writing. And it wasn't even that there were scenes were bad or the dialogue was bad. It was just that it didn't feel set up or earned at all. And it felt like there was too much of that, which could have been really an emotional punch and got you to really like these characters. But the way it was presented felt very filler. Mm-hmm. One of the other bad things that I have is the magic item, the pin.
Yes.
I do not. So there are a couple problems with this. I do like magic items, and I like when they show up early, and I like when they bring comics to life. And I thought where they used it properly is with when the comic book guy becomes kind of a low level bad guy. But no, as soon as Santa Shark exists, which these two kids know is from their comic book, they aren't questioning how or why. They're just like, Santa Shark's out there, we got to stop him. But like, you really should be like, well, why is there a Santa Shark? What has changed? What have I done differently? Oh, I got this magic pen with Elvish written on it.
Yeah.
Right. And
how did this thing from my imagination come alive?
And so none of that was addressed. And that should have been one of the major issues in the first part of this movie, especially Act 1, of like, wait a minute. Oh, and then they find it in the comic book store, but then they drop it. And then they don't think about it again for another half hour. And like, it just doesn't make any sense. And then I like the idea of like them drawing stuff, and it just makes the shark more powerful. But the rules of the magic item of the pen aren't set up at all. So you really have no idea what's going on. It would have been cool if like the stuff that the comic book guy was making somehow turned bad, or like he would have drawn like Christmas octopus to fight the Christmas shark, like, or he could have like drawn a kind of suit of armor for himself to go in and fight. There's so many.
Well, let me toss this in here.
Yeah.
The comic book store owner, he has like these like Comic-Con weapons or something. Why couldn't they have drawn those weapons? Right. It gets the pen into the movie more. That's an awesome scene. Because then you have the scene where they draw it and then they exit out like, no, that's not good enough. And then they draw it bigger and badder and cooler. And then they all like nod and like, time to weapon up. Yeah, that's a beautiful scene idea. So I've been rambling, so I'll let you guys go to bad because I definitely have more on that, but I want to hear what you have to say, Lance. You're nodding your head a lot. I think we might all be on kind of the same track.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chris said it best about the dialogue. There's a lot of filler in this movie. It feels like they were able to write down some really good scenes and then didn't know how to connect them. So they came up with bad dialogue and filler. Like, well, we need something to take up time. Otherwise, we've only got a 45-minute show, and you need to fill in like an hour and a half.
Right.
Perfect example.
Been there.
Chris, I like the idea of the pen. I would have liked to have seen it been executed kind of like the remote from Click. But like Chris said, there's no setup for it. There's no like rules to go by. It just kind of appears and disappears willy-nilly. And the kids, it took them too long to try and figure out what to do with it. And then when they figured out what to do with it, you're like, it's like you guys said, you could have gone with armor. You could have gone with the weapons from the Comic-Con. I mean, the comic book guy had all kinds of stuff at the disposal, yet you come up with a cheeseball idea and then exit out and just make a bigger cheeseball idea. So for the most part, I'm kind of right on board with Chris with a lot of that.
Yeah, when the comic book guy gets it, I think that would have been a perfect scene to establish the rules with it. Because I don't mind that they lost the pen. It's just that the pen was not the focus. I think what should have happened is he should have went, oh, hey, there's pen. And he like draws his Russian girlfriend or whatever. He draws money. He's like, oh, whoa. Guys, and instead of having him become that low-key villain, he's the person that like sort of discovers how it works and what's going on with it. And he still
like
gets that comedic moment.
He's almost like Q from Bond, where he's like, they get back in there and he's got all these cool, like fantastical weapons drawn up. And like they did the scene where like, hey, here's this, try this weapon out to fight a shark. And then like, it's got to be Christmassy. So he goes back to the drawing board, like Christmasifies them all.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of potential.
Well, and there's a point in the movie where, I mean, I'm thinking this through the whole movie. I'm like, draw weapons to kill the shark. There's a point in the movie toward the end where the mom, she's like looking through the sketchbook and she sees a picture of what I think is like all the friends and family decked out in gear. And she goes like, I think I have an idea. And then they start launching turkeys into the water. Like it's just total non sequitur. So
I was all the things that they could have done and then ended up trying to catapult turkeys at.
I forgot my biggest bad.
Okay.
I've talked about it before in other movies. They play either the same piece of classical music or very similar music to the weapon up scene in Home Alone. And they do it twice in this film. And for someone who's seen Home Alone a million times, it's that idea of homaging something that is 100 times better than you will ever be and how you should probably not do that. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this in a lot of movies, but for me, it takes it out of the movie for me. We talked about this in Prey. There's a lot of movies we talked about this in where like, I get the idea of homaging and I'm not against it, but like, you really have to be careful of like, what does this do to my movie? I get that like, yeah, we're gearing up to fight the monster or we're gearing up to booby trap the house to stop the bad guys. But like you use the same music and the same like similar editing and cutting style. And you're sticking out how much less quality you are than the thing you're referencing. And that just really bugs me.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because I really kind of want to talk about in Schlock, but I want to get out my next couple of bads and then we can move on if that's cool with everybody. We talked about the rules, how they are kind of here and there. The shark, like it's hurt by Christmas things, but only like sometimes sort of. I think my biggest bad was the reaction to people getting eaten by sharks, specifically the grandpa. Like the grandpa is the first to go. He's the one that like they've created to be the most likable character. And I think this is good, right? Like when you're making a horror movie, you have to make people either love or hate a character that's going to get killed. Like if people are indifferent about them, like then there's really no emotional attachment that happens. There's no emotional payoff when their death comes. But his grandpa gets eaten by the shark and he's just like, oh no. He's like, what do I do?
He's still sleeping. How dare you?
Yeah. Like it didn't follow that. Like, I don't know. You see your most beloved family member swallowed whole and you're just like, no one believes me. I don't know. And also my last bad is when it all turns out to be a dream in the end, which when we were watching it, Megan, she called it from the very beginning that like, yeah, it all has to get retroactively taken back in some way.
You know, when I figured out that was going to happen is when they killed the comic book friend.
Oh yeah.
I was like, you're killing too many people, too many close characters to him. And then you kill the brother and then the dad and then the mother. I'm like, yeah, no, it's all getting taken back. Interestingly
enough, when everyone comes back, the only two people that they don't show are the comic book guy Clark and his best friend. I don't remember his name, but they talk about like, hey, I knew he was like family to you. And at the end, the kid is saying like, I want my family back. And so I thought maybe he would be there on Christmas morning or something, or the comic book guy would be like, hey, Merry Christmas as he's riding a bike. I don't know. Right?
Hey,
They
kids,
just need to
I
bring
bet you
everybody
thought
back.
I was dead.
Yeah, exactly. So they just didn't put as nice of a bow on it as I would have liked. Anyway, let's move into the schlock because I want to keep going with this Home Alone thing. I was watching it kind of hoping it would have followed the beats from Home Alone. It would have followed the story structure from Home Alone because when he gets the pen, it sounds like he's putting his mom on a hit list and like she's going to be the first to go. But wouldn't it have been a great thing to be like, I wished my family away, and they don't exactly see the first person get killed by the shark or the kid doesn't, but they start like piecing it together as it goes like, oh, it's Santa Jaws. I don't know. And then eventually they come back. I don't know. Thoughts?
It could work if it was well written. You know, I'm not opposed to ripping off the beats of another movie and or homaging another movie. It's just got to be careful with that because you've got to you got to be firing on 75% of your cylinders to pull that off.
Right. Right. Lance, where are you at on this?
You know, I look at it from a different perspective where almost like a Green Lantern type thing. You know, he's got this pen where he could draw anything and everything. So like you said, he could draw his family out of the scenario. Mm-hmm. He could draw more people into the scenario. You could draw the weapons. You could draw the armor. And there's a lot of potential there with something like that. And I, when I was watching the movie, I kept referencing like Click in my head with Christopher Walken and Adam Sandler, because it's kind of similar. You go through this whole scenario and you're able to control what's going on. And then at the very end, it was like this life lesson, mm-hmm. But there was a big payoff at the end with the pen, except for, basically destroying the comic, mm-hmm. Like, well, you did all that hard work and now you're just going to throw it in the pot.
Right. Well, and the problem I have with destroying the comic is we don't know if any of that really happened or if he just dreamed it. Right. And the comic doesn't represent anything bad that he did. Right. That's his hard work. Yeah. He drew the shark and was angry at his mom when he drew the shark. So the shark came to life. But if it was the comic that he drew at school that was offensive and that they weren't showing, and he was doing that to get even with people, mm-hmm. and then he realizes, hey, people deserve a second chance or something, and then he burns that comic, that is more of an emotional payoff or something like that. But there's no emotion tied to this book. There's just I used a magic pen and it came to life and hurt people, but he could have done that to any of the comic books that he's drawn with his friend. Mm-hmm. Right. So it didn't feel earned. It just felt like, well, this is the thing that's supposed to happen now in the story. So let's do that thing.
Mm-hmm. And again, I keep going back to, like, they wrote a lot of really good scenes, but they just weren't connect the dots.
Yeah.
Mishap with this movie.
Did you ever think that, again, I love that intro scene so much. Did you ever think that like those characters would come back? Like that evil Santa would come back or their hero that they created would come back and save the day, or like
that? See, that would have been cool because again, it's that idea of using the magic pen. If it creates your problem, you already have the third act solution right there. You solve your problem with it.
Yeah.
Not only that, but it also would have been a great representation of, the old saying, the pen is mightier than the sword. So you were able to bring life with the pen. You're able to take its life away with the pen. Mm-hmm. And to touch on the opening scene where you're saying about the hero, I think that was supposed to be a representation of the main character himself.
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
Probably himself,
right,
as a character. But I do think it would have been hilarious had Santa come back, since he was kind of an asshole. I think it would have been hilarious. He came back as like the wrangler for the shark, the one who was doing its bidding for him.
Yeah.
He riding the shark like a cowboy and waving his hat.
Yeah. They needed to bring him back. He was a great little cameo character.
Not to go back to Home Alone, but like Home Alone, the moral's not the right word, but the theme is baked into the movie. You know, he's upset at his family and he says he'd have more fun if they were all gone. And then guess what? They're all gone. And he realizes, hey, it's fun for a while, but it's better to have your family and the people who love you there and to have, you know, people together. There's no real clear theme that our main character is wrestling with. Yeah, he's upset that people are kind of ignoring him and he gets grounded. But there's a couple of ideas that could have become a theme, and then it would have had a more emotional resonance, but they never really pick a path and go through with it and flesh it out. And I think that's why something like this will always inherently be a weaker story.
Yeah. It feels like they were doing kind of a Boy Who Cried Wolf sub story in there. They say, remember when you said there were zombies downtown?
Right. So if they would have doubled down on that and fleshed that out and made that the theme, you really could have had something special.
Yeah.
And did he draw the zombies with the magic pen? Like, is the pen the issue the whole time?
Right. Yeah. Right. And then like, also, where did the pen come from? Why did the grandpa give him the pen? Had the pen been used before? We go back to all these questions,
right?
Which I don't think any of them had. But I do have a question, and then I'll stop talking for a while and let you guys do whatever. My question is, you both like this more than Shark and Venice, and I agree that this is a better movie. But I think the story idea in Shark and Venice is better. I think this one had potential to be good, but if you're just going with the story, the idea behind the story, I liked the story in Shark and Venice more than this.
I mean, Shark and Venice, the story, that type of thing has been done. Like it's a more plausible, more bankable, more universally enjoyable story, probably. But where else are you going to get a Santa Claus shark?
I agree.
Come on.
I think that this is a better movie than Shark and Venice, but my question is, neither of them are a good movie. Neither of them are good. They're both schlock, and that's what this podcast is. That's what we're doing. But if you have to watch schlock, if you're going to watch a low budget, crappy movie, do you choose something that might be 20% worse, but have a better story, or 20% better, but the story's it's okay and it had potential? Like, it's just, where do you land on what's important on a schlocky movie, or is it different for each movie?
I'm with Chris on this one. The story for Shark and Venice was more, had way more potential. And I mean, as Darby says, it is a storyline that's been done 100 different times, you know, Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider, National Treasure. But I think if it was executed better, it could have been a much better movie. However, if I have to watch one of these again, it would definitely be Santa Jaws. Santa Jaws was the better movie, not necessarily the better story.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I approached it like that. I think of these schlock movies as kind of Russian roulette. Like you might get a bang, you might just get a big nothing. Well, that made it sound like the wrong part of Russian roulette is the good part. But say that again.
I said in this case, you want to bang with the Russian roulette.
Yeah, right. So I watch them. I watch these to be inspired because, right, we do good and bad in these, because I do think that there is good somewhere in all of these movies. And I think that there's something to watch and get inspired by. And with these movies, I mean, they do get so ridiculous. In a lot of ways, they swing for the fences, and in most ways they fail. But man, like I said, you are not going to see a movie like Santa Jaws, like a big release in theaters, right?
No. So I guess if we're going from inspiration, I think Santa Jaws is a lot more fun and crazier and goes there. I mean, it's a glowing shark with a fin with a Santa hat, but I think Shark and Venice inspired me more.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I think, well, again, you could take that movie and really spin it into something that is probably pretty bankable in some way.
Yeah. Whereas you could make Shark Jaws a better version of Shark Jaws, but it's always going to be Shark Jaws.
You mean Santa Jaws?
Yes, Santa Jaws.
Shark
Man.
Claws?
Shark Claws. Yep, Santa Jaws, not Shark Jaws.
So, that's some real good philosophical stuff. The only things that I really have left in this are just to point out weird things in the movie. So what do you guys have? Do you have some weird things that you want to that you just have to spotlight for a second?
I mean, narwhals are one of my favorite animals of all time. So if you add a horn to a shark and it makes me feel like it's kind of narwhal-esque, then that's a win in my book.
I feel like that should exist in nature. Like scientists should get on that.
Yeah. It needs a shark with a laser when you have a peppermint horn.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, see, and that's what I was going to say was like, I'm glad they went with like the narwhal route because, you know, when it was made, it would have been so easy to been like sharks with freaking laser beams on their head. And I'm glad they avoided that. I'm glad they stuck with the Christmas themed power.
There was imagination for sure. This movie had imagination.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the idea of like turning ornaments into grenades. I thought that was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that they would have an Acme box labeled explosives just in a boathouse somewhere.
Well, I want to throw this out here. Pun intended. So they build up the older brother as a pitcher, a baseball pitcher, right? He's got an arm on him or something. And that never really like helps them. Like, I think they try to make it help them in some way. They mention
I think, doesn't he throw like one of the turkeys and they're like, good shot or something, but yeah, it doesn't really do anything.
Well, like, I just think it's so funny that they felt like they needed to put this story beat into the movie. And then yet they show shots of them throwing things into the water and all of the things like land in the water sideways. And then it shows a shot underwater where it like actually hits the shark. Like it's just like these super limp, impudent throws. And then it's boom. Like, I don't know.
I loved how everyone ended up leaning over the water to pick stuff up.
Right.
I think like 4 out of 5 deaths were, let me bend over this water and pick this useless thing up.
Well, didn't the mom have the best idea of like, we just need to go inland? Like,
right?
I mean, makes sense. That's the easiest solution to any shark movie, except Sharknado.
Let's not be in the water. Let's not go water. Let it be somebody else's problem.
Yeah. Let's see. Throwing sideways. I'm just checking off my list here. The dad. Do you think the dad was hitting on the model girlfriend? Did you get
when
that
they were
vibe?
making snowflakes?
Yeah, and I think there were like some times where he was like rubbing on her shoulders and stuff. And then after the brother, the uncle, I guess, gets eaten, the younger son, it kind of feels like he's hitting on her too. Am I reading into that? Or
it feels like a typical family dynamic.
Yeah.
all right.
And then the comic
OnlyFans picture, you know.
Say that again.
They're all trying to find the OnlyFans profile.
Yeah. Like
and then
Georgia.
What's his name? The comic book guy's creeping on her. You know, she was one of my most problematic characters because it felt like the whole social media comic relief felt really dated. And this was 6 years ago, so maybe it was a little better then, but it just really felt dated and on the nose and not very funny. And like, really, you couldn't have figured out something better for this character to do. Like, you know, when you hear complaints about underwritten characters, I'm like, yeah, you could have given this woman a better role that would have served the purpose more, except for, she's saying words that kids say about social media.
LOL.
Right.
So we have that. My last question is this really Christmas? because there's no snow, there's no really Christmas decorations outside of like the home and the comic book shop, right? Like there isn't garland hanging from the boat dock or anything like that. What's going on here? Clearly it's budgetary things, right? But
they could have taken some of that $3 million that they stuffed in their pockets and ponied up a little more Christmas stuff. It felt Christmas to me, again, like Home Alone 2, where they're in Florida, and it's just Christmas looks different in places that don't have snow.
Well, that's the thing. Is it taking place in Florida? I thought it was in like upstate New York or something.
Yeah, see, that was my biggest issue, was like, where is this even happening? Because
I thought it was like Southern State, East Coast.
So like, here's the thing, like it's supposed to be taking place someplace southern, because she's, the model is clearly in a bikini at one point and hanging out in the water, even though it looks like it's 50 degrees outside. And
right. It's all gray.
It looks like it's in upstate New York, but it's supposed to be in Florida. So there was a very poor execution. And like, beyond it being Santa Jaws, no, it doesn't really feel like a very Christmassy movie, with the exception of, the very end where everybody's back and they're hanging out on the screen.
Well, and even in Florida, right, they put Christmas lights up on things, don't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've been around there around that time. It's beautiful.
There were some Christmas decorations in yards and stuff. I mean, you didn't see a lot of locations in this movie.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they could have done better.
Well, I will agree with that. And on that note,
Misty, if you're watching this, I hope your other holiday movies have some more decorations in them. You're really missing out on this one. All right, that is really all that I have. I think we're about ready to wrap up. Let's do some last thoughts on this. Lance, what are your final thoughts?
I mean, overall, like I said before, it's better than the last one we watched. I would watch it again. But it's overall not a great movie. If I had to look at it from a fun factor, it's probably like a 9 out of 10, but overall, like probably like a 4 from a cinematic value.
All right. Chris, what are you thinking?
I think we take Shark and Venice and we take Santa Jaws and we combine them, and I think that would rival Jaws.
That might be true. Oh, and I believe that they did another homage that you didn't mention. Doesn't the shark die in the same way that there are several homages to Jaws, which are also problematic and not fun. Yeah, they explode the shark. Is there any other way to kill the shark? Well, and clearly, I mean, this movie is very meta, and they are referencing Jaws. Right, it's called Santa Jaws. That's the name of the character.
Right, so you get a free pass with that one.
Okay, all right. Well, that is all of the time that we have for this week. I didn't say what I thought, but I thought it was way better than Shark and Venice. So 2 thumbs up. Be sure to get on to our @Compelled by Schlock Instagram, or on to Lance, the Obscure Movie Guys Facebook page after this airs on July 18th to vote for our next shark movie viewer's choice between Deep Blue Sea, The Shallows, and 47 Meters Down. Until next time, I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. This is Lance, the Obscure Movie Guy. We have been compelled by Schlock. Bye.
Schlock. Schlocky. I am compelled by Schlock. Compelled by Schlock. Compelled by Schlock.
Wait, no.